Hey guys, Stefan Fischer here from All of Road. I hope you guys are well. In today's video I will tell you why 2 years on, Memory Maps for All is still my most used GPS navigation app. I will give you an in-depth tutorial over the features of Memory Maps for All, and I will also tell you how I use it and give you plenty of tips and tricks. So stay tuned. Two years ago, my most favorite app was Memory Maps for All, which was just freshly released at the time. However, I've been using previous versions of Memory Maps for nearly 10 years. So after another 2 years of intensive testing and usage, on-road, off-road and also during various hiking trips, I thought it is time for an update. And yes, Memory Maps for All is still my primary GPS navigation app. Let me give you briefly my 4 most important criteria which determine my favorite navigation app and the app I always use. Number 1, map availability and downloadability. It is very important obviously that you have good and various maps available and also that they're easy to download. Some applications like Avenza have good maps available, but they're all tiled and you have to download hundreds and hundreds of maps to cover a state. Memory Maps for All has a whole Hema map pack available, and while I'm not a huge fan of the new Hema Explorer maps, all the older specialty maps are very good and are maps I use constantly. Memory Maps for All also has a 25K topo maps available, and again that are maps I have for every state, even though they're an extra purchase, and I use them quite frequently if I really need close-up details. The user interface is the next very important criteria. Is it easy to navigate? Do I need a manual to find my way around? For me it's very important that I can do all the basic stuff without the need of consulting a manual. Stability and reliability, super important. Waking the iPad up hasn't been switched off and Explorer OS is gone. It's just how I left it last night. No issue here. Nothing more annoying if you want to record your track logs and in the middle all of a sudden the application loses contact or it doesn't record your tracks properly. Every morning I had Explorer OS running in the background and Memory Maps. I switched between both of them. Explorer OS last 2 days lost all these sections, just a phantom line. Lost all these sections, just a phantom line. There are many things I have experienced with other GPS navigation apps, but I have to say Memory Maps for All pretty much has been fault-free. I haven't had a crash, I haven't had any track logging not working as it's supposed to, and that is really of the past 2 years and nearly 60,000 kilometers of travel. Even though I receive the most applications and maps for testing and review purposes free of charge, total cost of ownership is still very important. And that's where quite a few applications like for example the Hema four-wheel drive maps fail, because you have a yearly subscription model for each individual map set. So if you have all the maps you can easily pay $200 a year for the subscription of the maps. And to be honest, especially for Outback Australia, the maps don't need updating that often. I think update every 3-4 years is more than sufficient, because for on-road driving or for tar driving I use Google Maps anyway and not my GPS navigation apps, even though they're obviously running in the background. I'm also not a big fan of the subscription model. I know it is often excused and developers say, oh, without a subscription we can't maintain and update. But from my experience since this introduction to subscription for many developers and applications is that the service and maintenance actually goes down. The developer has a fixed income coming in and there is no need really to bug fix, update and do stuff on the application. However, if an app or an upgrade is purchased by the user, the developer has far more incentive to create a new worthwhile version to get their extra income. So from my experience, subscriptions are only good for the developer, but not good for the end customer. I only subscribe to apps I absolutely need, but otherwise I stay away from subscriptions. So while Memory Maps for All is also not perfect, there are a few usability issues which I would like to see different. There are a few features which I wish it had. Overall though, it has ticked all the boxes and has been the most reliable app of all the apps I'm using. Every time I travel, I have around 11 apps on my various iPads, and I certainly also let other apps run in the background. I sometimes use other apps and maps as a reference, because let's face it, each set of maps has different strengths, and some are good in one area, not so good in the other area, so running multiple maps is a good idea. As a disclaimer, Memory Maps paid me a consultancy fee 2 years ago to help to troubleshoot and improve Memory Maps for All. However, I do have no agreement with Memory Maps. They have never paid me for any content. As a matter of fact, they don't get to see any of the content before it's out on YouTube. And this is not a video Memory Maps asked me to do. It's just that I like to update you 2 years later what I currently use. However, I did negotiate with Memory Maps a coupon code which gives you a $10 reduction of the Hema map pack, and it also gives you a discount for the 25K Australia-wide topo maps. The link to that is in the description, and I do receive a little kickback if you use that link, so I just want to be transparent about that. Let's now have a look closer into all the features and functionality Memory Map has, and let me explain to you how I use it, how I set it up, some tips and tricks, and some new introduced features. So let me first give you a little overview over the interface. I'm using the Mac app here, but that is the same on your iPad. So top left corner you have the settings. We're going to go over how I have set it up a little bit later. This is how you can edit the layout. Memory Maps is very versatile, and you can determine how it's all set up via this option. I show you that also a little bit later. Then we have here lock screen, where you can lock the screen. That means you can't do anything. To unlock, bottom right corner, just keep that pushed and that unlocks it. And then we have help and quit the app. On the top right hand side we have the list for overlays, add a new mark, add a new route, track recording, search, import, and CloudSync. You can also have shortcuts here, which I have, so I don't have to, for example, click on these and overlays, which is 2 steps. I can accomplish that with 1 step. Bottom right corner, that doesn't work at the moment because I'm inside. That will center your current location and show you on the map. This does not work inside on my desktop, so I show you here how it works on the iPad. Then on the bottom left hand side you have the map menu. You click on that and here you see all your different maps. Maps on device and current view will only show you the maps available for the area selected on your screen. If you click on everywhere, you see all the maps available. I have quite a few maps available. I tell you later which maps I'm using. Here is the digital map store, which shows you all maps available and also the status if you have them purchased and installed. You can also visit the Memory Maps website, which has a map store where you can see all available maps and also what maps are included, for instance in the Hema 4-wheel drive map pack. I strongly recommend to download all your maps to your device so you have them available at any time, whether you're in network reception or not. As a matter of fact, that is a big buying criteria for me for any GPS navigation app. If I can't download Australia-wide maps to the tablet, it's pretty much not an application I would use. To navigate on the map, you can use your fingers to zoom in and out or move the map on the screen. Pinch zoom in and out or swipe in any direction. If you set up the zoom buttons, you can also use these to zoom in and out, which may make it easier in the car. This is a quick overview over the basic layout of the app. You see quite a few extra panels. I will explain a bit later how you can create them. So which maps do I recommend? If you're watching your budget but still want reliable maps, the Hema 4-wheel drive map pack is an excellent choice. Although I'm not the biggest fan of the newer Hema Explorer maps, finding their pastel color palette a bit muted for quick glances while driving, I highly value the classic 4-wheel drive and regional maps included in this pack. They offer clear, distinguishable features that are crucial when you're on the move. The Hema map packs will cover most of your needs effectively. However, for those who need to zoom in closer on specific areas, consider investing in the 25k topo maps for each Australian state. These maps are an extra purchase and range from between $59 to $99 per state. In my eyes, they are a worthwhile one-time investment that will serve you well for many years. I have the Hema map pack as well as the topo maps for each state, and would recommend the same if you have the budget for it. You can use the link in the video description to get a discount on all the maps. Let me show you now how I set up memory maps for all. Obviously your requirements may differ from mine, but that is what works for me. So top left corner, settings, and let's have a quick look at the map options. Change map by scaling, that is something I switch on and off as needed. It just means if you zoom in or out, it always switches automatically to the next appropriate map. Sometimes I don't want that enabled and I want to stay on one map, and then I disable that. Show scale bar, that is a little bar here at the bottom. I find that helpful. I leave that. Automatic download is not really applicable for me because I have all maps downloaded in full, so I don't need that, but I have it enabled anyway. So the next setting is the GPS setup. I like the velocity vector. The velocity vector is the straight arrow going out of your position into the direction you are driving or walking. The end of the arrow will show you where you're going to be in the amount of time you set in the settings. It really depends on how I set that up. Sometimes I have it to 5 minutes, sometimes I have it to 30 minutes or 15 minutes. For example, for outback country road driving, I have it set to 30 minutes, and that gives me a good idea when I will reach the next town or my destination for the evening. I also like the range rings. Again, that are the round rings around your position, and they again give you a good indicator of distance. Depending on the terrain, I change the radius from 1 to 5 kilometers, and I have 5 rings. Here you can also change the color of the rings, but I leave that to the red. Display options. Okay, you can choose the light, dark or system. Let's go for light, and here you can choose the brightness to your needs. Here you can also set the time after the controls fade away and give you a full screen view, or you can also completely disable the fade away so that you have all controls permanently visible on the screen. And that is the option I usually choose, because otherwise I have to tap twice, once to make the controls reappear, and then obviously to whatever I want to achieve. In the most cases, I like to have them permanently on the screen, so just set it to never. So next is the route settings. To be honest, I don't change anything here. I don't really use that, so I leave that how it is. Altitude options, I also don't change that. That seems to work quite well how it is by default. I never had an issue with that. And now account activations, make sure you log in, or here you would log in if you're not logged in, and you also can see the activations of your maps. So the next is units. That is definitely something I change. I change that to metric. And the position formatting I change to degree and minutes, because that is easiest and most compatible with other GPS applications. But you can change it to whatever you want. So that is pretty much the settings menu and the settings I change. So one of the great and quite unique features to Memory Maps for All is that you can have several screens. And that really is a feature I love and I use on every trip. For instance, here, this is a map with a bigger scale, so I see quite a bit of the surrounding countryside, and that is very good for planning ahead to see overall where you are. And instead of having to change this map, for example, to the topo map, what I can do is just click to a different map. And now I'm here on a topo map on Boot Hill. And for example, this is Boot Hill on the big map, and now this is Boot Hill on the small map. So that makes it, while you're touring and driving, quite easy to see whether you're still on the right track, because really if you zoomed in, it is fairly easy to take a wrong turn and heading into the wrong direction, unless you can confirm that on the big map here. So yeah, that is something I constantly use. I also use it to have, for example, one of the screens on a completely different area. Here I'm now on the New England tablelands. I have my topo map. I have my bigger overview map. But say I want to show someone a location or something in the Simpson Desert, and I don't want to change all my maps here. I just go on my map 3, and here I have the Simpson Desert. And again, I really love that feature of having multiple pages with completely different maps and scales, and use it all the time. You also have 2 instrumental screens with all instruments. For example, your moving average, distance, odometer, max speed, then a speedo here, the time, elapsed time, and the estimated position accuracy. You can all customize that to your needs. You can also start and stop or start and resume logging from here. This is another screen which you would use if you travel to a certain waypoint. It tells you the distance to waypoint, time to waypoint, and so on. I find that actually from time to time quite useful when I do cross-country travel, where you have no tracks, but you have a waypoint where you want to end up, and that gives you a good idea whether you're still traveling into the right direction and how long it takes to get there. So also a very useful feature. Let me now give you a quick overview how you can change the layout of the pages, where all the buttons are located and so on, and also create a new map page. Before we start, one thing I recommend: go to Settings, Display Options, and enable dark mode, because that makes it easier to see the different items when we go into the layout edit mode. So the next step is we go into edit layout, and now you see the buttons have changed here slightly. And once I'm in this mode, I pretty much can change all the buttons here. For example, I want to make this one a little bit smaller, and I want to add a few buttons here. So at the moment I have the start and stop record track log. I have a shortcut to bring me to my overlays, my track logs, and then I have the button to create a new waypoint. So if I wanted to add a new item, I click new item, toolbar, for example. I want a shortcut to my search, and here we have that. Now I can resize that. I could move it around, place it wherever. I want to place it underneath here. So fairly simple. If I wanted to place another item here with some data, keep in mind you also have different layers, so you can determine on which layer you place it. You don't really need to make any changes there unless you want to place items on top of each other, because the layers then determine, which item is on top or not. I don't need that here, so I want to place an item. And for example, I want to show the 24-hour time with seconds. So we click on that, and now we always show the constant time here. I can again resize it, move it around, very simple. Yeah, that is a basic overview how you change the layout and can really adjust it. Once you have done so, it will only apply to that device, so it will not automatically sync. But what you can do, you can go on Pages, click on here, and then save layout as. And then you can save that as, for example, my favorite, and then import that into your tablet and have the same layout there. You also can create new pages. For example, I already have 3 map pages, but if I wanted to create a 4th map page, I can click on any of the map pages I want to duplicate. I just duplicate. You could also create a page from scratch, but duplication is easier. Add duplicated page, which we have done now. Here, this one. Now I can rename it, rename the page, call it map data page, say 3, continue. And at the moment I'm still on the map only page. I want to go to this page, click on it, and then show page. And now I'm on that page and I can customize that page however I want. And make sure that once you're finished with laying out your page, you click on done here. And now you can swap between all your different pages. So let's talk about track logs and marks. To record a track, you either go on this menu and then record track, or I have a button set up here which you click, and that means you will start recording until you push the button again, and that will stop the track log. So even on a multi-day trip, if you start recording, it will record every day, but it will create a new track log for each day. So if I would like to create a point of interest or a mark, fairly simple. Again, I go here and I click on Add New Mark. Now I can select that mark, can drag it around, can place it where I want. Yeah, that's on the Mac here. On a tablet, I have 2 separate little icons, left and right. One is to edit the details and the other one is to actually move the mark around. On the desktop, you use a right mouse click to edit the mark. And now here I can name it. I can see the actual position details, could change that. I can also change the color here, and I can also change the icon. Here I choose the 4-wheel drive, and as you can see, it displays as a little 4-wheel drive now. You can even upload your own custom icons. I'll show you soon how you can do that. Let me now show you how you can customize the track log template to save each track log in a track log folder instead of just in a folder called tracks. And I'll also show you how to sort all track logs by year and month, which I found much easier to keep tracks organized. Go to your overlays and then on the right hand side at the 3 bars, click on Edit Defaults and then Edit Track Template. In the top field you can change the name for each saved track. I leave that as it is. Then you can change the appearance, for example, give it a different color, make it more opaque or faint, make it thinner, thicker, and also change different styles of solid, dash, dot, and so on. In the category field, you can name the folder the track log is saved under. By default, that is tracks, but I changed that to track logs. You also have modifiers, which I use to sort the track logs, in my case by year and months. I found that this makes organizing the track logs much easier. There are quite a few other modifiers you could use to tailor these to your needs. You can use the same method to reorganize your category folders. For example, as you can see here in the marks folders, not all of my marks are sorted by year and months, so I can reorganize it the following way. Click and hold on the marks category and then click on Edit 20 marks. Now you just change the input into the category box by typing the name of the folder, a colon, then a percentage sign, and then Y in small letters. Close it again with a percentage sign, another colon, then another percentage sign, and then in capital letters, that's important, M, and close it again with another percentage sign. And voila, you see that all your marks are now sorted by year and months. That makes organization much neater and easier. A little tip, if you stuffed up, just redo it again and everything will be alright. To sort your track logs, routes and marks, tap the menu at the top right of the dialog and choose from the following sort modes. Name, alphabetically by name, date created, from the earliest to the most recent creation date, date modified, from the earliest to the most recent modification date, size of bounding box, based on the total size, widths, plus and heights, distance from your current geographic location on the map, reverse, toggles the sorting order. Categories follow the same sorting criteria, with the creation date reflecting the oldest item and the modification date reflecting the newest item in each category. Before I get into how to create a route, let me quickly explain you the differences between track logs and routes. A track log is something you recorded while driving. A route is something you create on the map, planning, for example, a route to a certain destination. To create a route, you click on the top right menu and then click on Add Route, or I have a shortcut set up here I could also click. This will create the first waypoint on the map. With the green icon you can move it around and then you start clicking on the map for additional waypoints. Once you are finished, you click the Done on the left hand side. Now that is your new route. If you now click on the route, you can open it up and edit it. For example, give it a different name. You can change the appearance, the color, the thinness, the style. And you also have the option to make it invisible. You can lock it. That means you can't change any of the waypoints. And you can make it syncable. You can also assign it to a category. There are a few more settings you can customize, however I hardly ever use routes, so I won't go more into that. A neat feature is that you can actually see the route altitude profile. You just click on the route profile, and now on top you see the altitude window. And if you use your finger slide along the altitude window, you also see your car moving along that route and it tells you exactly what altitude you are in. Another good, albeit a bit limited feature in Memory Maps for All is that you can optimize routes. That means your route actually will become sticky and adhere directly to the underlying road. This is limited though to only 10 waypoints and you need an internet connection to do that. So unfortunately it's not really that usable, but for short routes it is quite nice. So you click on optimize, walking, cycling or driving, and now you see that the route has completely adhered to the track and will give you a much better accuracy in regards to distances and so on. To see all your routes, you just go into your overlays and there you have routes where you see all routes you created. You can also manipulate the routes from there. Or you can just click on one of the routes and then on the blue downwards arrow. Let me show you how you can import track logs or waypoints. I found some of my old canning track logs and I would like to import them. So I create a folder named canning. I now click on the 3 lines on my overlay list and choose import. Now I navigate to the folder where my track logs are stored, which is in my case in an iCloud folder, and select the individual track logs I would like to import. As you can see here, it is no problem selecting multiple items. Once you selected all track logs, just click on Open. Let Memory Maps do its thing and import all the marks and track logs. So all the track logs will be in the folder track logs and all the marks will be in the folder marks. Unfortunately, Memory Maps uses the import date and not the actual creation date of the GPX files, which was in 2019. But it doesn't really matter because I would like to move all the track logs in the newly created folder canning. So I long click, select multi-select, select all the track logs I would like to move, and then I click on Move Track Logs. The folder list might seem a bit tricky at first, as folders appear as duplicates if they contain subfolders. To navigate these, select the folder icon with a triangle if you wish to place a track log in one of the subfolders. However, if you intend to place it in the root folder, simply choose the folder name that doesn't have the triangle next to it. I choose the newly created canning category and all track logs are placed now in there. You can also import GPX files straight into a specific folder. Just click long on the specific folder, click on import here, then choose the GPX file and voila. The free version of Memory Maps for All does include very basic cloud syncing, but only up to 2 MB and not more than 10 syncs per month. This is okay if you only have a few POIs and track logs, but for instance, just my track logs are 125 MB, and that does not include my custom icons, routes and marks. There is a Memory Maps Pro subscription, which costs a reasonable US $20 per year, and that includes cloud syncing over 2 MB of data, and you can sync all your devices up to 10,000 times per month. Furthermore, it also allows you to import third-party maps and ocean charts. I didn't find a way to purchase that in-app, and it is a bit hidden on the website. I'm using the Pro subscription. You can also see all your track logs, routes and marks on the Memory Map website, and from there you can bulk download them, which is a pretty good feature. However, it doesn't seem to work that well if you have a lot of track logs. Sometimes it does hang then, so that is something in my book which could be improved. Also, it would be nice to have a few more options on the website to really organize your track logs and have folders and so on. It is all fairly basic there. You can also archive your track logs there. When it's archived, it means it will be removed from your devices, but it is not completely deleted. I would suggest making a backup of all your GPX files. Unfortunately, even if you select, say, 20 files, it will export one combined GPX track log, which has one single name. I would prefer if it exports each GPX file individually. Memory Maps is unfortunately not designed for many thousands of overlays, so it pays to keep your overlay slim and maybe have backups on your desktop. Version 1.3 of Memory Maps for All now supports the import of custom icons, addressing the need for more modern and diverse icon choices. This is something I requested quite some time ago. To use this feature, I downloaded custom icons from the Noun project website and then resized them to 32 by 32 pixels and SVG format. Despite the promise of color customization for icons with a color code of 20000, I encountered issues with this functionality, but it may have been user error. These updates significantly enhances the flexibility of displaying waypoints and markers. If you want to play around with that, I would strongly suggest to consult the manual because it is not as straightforward as it seems. Memory Maps for All, while reliable in many aspects, does have a notable gap: its point of interest POI database. It offers a basic collection of locations and towns, but it falls short in comprehensiveness, lacking many places and missing a crowdsourcing function to enrich these data with user contributions. Despite this, it's a limitation I have adapted to over the years. Nothing has changed there in the past decade. To complement Memory Maps for All, I geared up with several other resources. I have the free WikiCamps installed on all my iPads, with all necessary maps and data downloaded for offline use. In my opinion, WikiCamps beats any other POI database, including the database from ExplorerOS, for anything camping related, because it has so much user interaction, so many reviews, and yeah, it's the best POI database I reckon available at the moment. This setup is crucial for locating camp spots and other key points of interest during my trips. I also utilize ExplorerOS for its robust POI database, which often serves as a handy reference. For hiking ideas, especially when I'm parked for a day or two, I rely on my AllTrail subscription. And when I'm in more populated areas or towns, looking for a good meal or local attraction, TripAdvisor is my go-to. Although it's disappointing that Memory Maps hasn't expanded its POI capabilities, I found effective ways to bridge this gap with these additional applications. I thought it would be of interest to show you quickly what my current in-car setup is to hold my two iPads and my iPhone I use for navigation. My main center console mount is still the industrial Evolution mount, and yeah, I really like it. I can't fault it. I think I'm now in the second year with the mount, and it does its job very well. I don't use my built-in radio much, so it doesn't really affect me that is obstructed, and I would still recommend the Industrial Revolution mounting system. It is very solid. For my second windscreen mounted iPad, I'm using the Seasucker vacuum mounts, and after having tried many different mounts, that is the only mount where you can be sure that it does not come off, as long as you maintain the vacuum and pump a few times every few days. The windscreen mount via the Seasucker suction cup and the RAM mount is rock solid, no matter the corrugation, it will never fail. However, do keep in mind that if the sun is shining on the windscreen, the iPad can overheat on the windscreen mount. And also I had a rock flying up on my last trip which created a big crack, and I had to remove the windscreen mount because the vacuum would just not hold. So it was good to have my main mount, which is hard mounted on the dashboard and doesn't rely on the windscreen. Let me give you a few tricks in regards to track logs and routes. For example, you have a track log from a trip you did some time ago or from a friend, and you are not really sure how long that day actually was, how much you drove, how much the elevation was. There is a very neat feature here in Memory Maps for All. You click on the track log. I'm on the Mac here, so I right click, and then I can actually look at the altitude profile, which is right here. And if I move here, you see where my little cursor is moving. So I can see exactly how high I am at that point of the track. I think that is a very neat feature, especially for planning. You can see the highest point, the lowest points where you possibly encounter difficulties because you have a very quick rising elevation. So very neat feature. So if you now also want to see how fast you were, you can go to the speed profile. And now we have the speed profile here, and I see exactly how fast I was on that specific part of the track. So you see me coming in here from the bottom. It's a small red dot. It's not that easy probably to see. And again, that is a nice research tool, or if you share tracks with someone else. But the same feature actually works if you create a route. For instance, let me create a route here. So that's number one. Let's remove these profiles here. And now I would like to see, because that is a route I haven't driven yet, I want to see what the elevation is. You click on it and you click on the route profile, and now that shows me the elevation at each point on the map. And again, I think that is an absolutely great feature for planning. For example, when planning Victorian high country trips, the altitude panel is very helpful to, for example, find the steepest tracks, or if you're so inclined, avoid the steepest tracks. Let me give you another example how I use this feature. People in the Simpson Desert group often ask, how fast can you drive from Batten Hill up to Jervis because it's heavily corrugated? A quick look at my track log pretty much showed me that I averaged around 60 kilometers per hour. It also gives you a good indicator what our average speed on other parts of the Hay River track was. So there are many options to use this feature when planning or sharing track logs. For instance, if you share the track log with a buddy who also has Memory Maps for All, he can see the speed and altitude panel of your drive and can plan accordingly. As we wrap up, let's reflect on my journey with Memory Maps for All over the past 2 years. After countless trips and adventures, Memory Maps for All remains my go-to GPS navigation app. Whether I'm plotting routes or tracking my journey, it's a constant on my devices, seamlessly integrating the Hema 4-wheel drive MacPack and the 25K state topo maps. The reliability of Memory Maps for All is unmatched. It hasn't failed or crashed once in all this time. The robust map selection, user-friendly interface and features like the multiple map screens truly set it apart. And with no subscription fees plus one-time purchases for detailed maps, it offers exceptional value, maintaining one of the lowest total cost of ownerships among GPS apps. The only minor hiccup is a lack of points of interest, but as I mentioned earlier, this is easily managed with other apps. So for anyone serious about off-road navigation, Memory Maps for All is without a doubt a reliable and economical choice. If you're in the market for a new GPS navigation app, make sure you use the link in my video description to get a discount on all the map packs. Yeah guys, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video and got some useful information out of it. As an independent content creator, I do not receive any sponsorship, I don't receive money for videos I make, and there is a lot of work in videos like this. So if you enjoy my content and would like to support me, I would greatly appreciate if you could head over to Patreon or buy me a coffee, and with the equivalent of a cup of coffee or 2 per month, you can really help me creating these videos. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you on the tracks.